we're going live now.
Okay. It's okay, YouTube? Thank you.
Just some second. Go on.
Okay. It's possible to start now? I think it's possible. It's okay, YouTube, it's okay, Zoom. Thank you for all. Thank you for accepting our invitation. The current painful situation which is hard for our societies has certainly brought us closer and made us feel close and united by a common destiny. I believe that we are experiencing several similar problems in different contents. Precisely what we should highlight today through our meeting. The current situation, for good or ill, put technologies at the center and highlighted their potential, as well as the delay which characterized the introduction of digital technologies into educational systems. Schools and universities that had already adopted digital modalities have now proven to be ready to face the current challenge. The emergency response forced the school and university to move in the direction we had been proposing for some time. Competencies-based teaching, problem-based learning, and increased attention to interactivity. Although seeing some teachers still using web conference to replicate their transmissive lecture, many teachers are now wondering how to carry on better teaching and then how to evaluate at a distance. The ongoing problem have arisen the need to redesign teaching at school and university level, and this is placing attention on design. We believe that once the emergency is over, there will be increased attention and focus on teaching and design. What will happen tomorrow, however, we also really on how educational researchers are moving today. I believe the researchers involved in education and technologies must be very careful at this stage to support good practice, and at the same time to avoid the negative practices will be used to build generalizations. This latter will prevent the development of innovative teaching practice, which today more than ever can be also implemented through digital solutions. The first lesson learned is certainly what may seem obvious for many of us. That is that today we cannot distinguish anymore between online education and face-to-face education. Digital technologies indeed are increasingly pervasive in our life and teaching in the classroom. Outside the classroom and informal context belong the same experience for teaching. This requires new models and practices to be carefully designed. Today's meeting aimed to take stock of the current situation and identify the most appropriate interpretive categories to analyze the situation. From this point of view, we propose to pay attention to two main issues. On the one hand, to provide information and interpretative cues to better understand the situation in the different contexts. On the other hand, to identify possible future research direction and synergies to carry out on the short run. How to better understand what is happening, what type of data to collect in a systematic way to be able to compare them, what type of initiatives can be launched. CRM has produced a highlight appreciated document in Italy to provide some guideline. I think it will be interesting if we could develop some common point. I now give the floor to Andrea, who will illustrate our position in a greater detail. Thank you for all. Thank you for all for accepted our invitation. Andrea?
Thank you. Thank you, Pier Cesare. Now I will introduce the guidelines that the CRM try to propose to all the university teacher and school teacher in Italy in order to cope these critical moments. So we try to propose our guidelines beginning from two important premises. The first is that e-learning for us is not a silver bullet to fix all our problems. We are not claiming to replace face-to-face teaching with learning. E-learning and face-to-face teaching, if well organized, involve benefits and disadvantages, allowing teachers and designers to develop suitable teaching learning processes both for training and educational levels. The second, it would be a mistake drawing conclusion about the effectiveness of e-learning from what is happening in the current days. It's a crisis. So we think that the first important thing is that it's important to maintain a relationship with our students in this moment of crisis. University is first and foremost an educational setting before training. We think that at the center of the learning processes, there are interaction between teaching and learning and the relationship between teacher and student, their continuous dialogue, mutual listening and feedback. We have to understand how to implement the relationship and avoid that e-learning is just delivery, the digital learning object. Otherwise, the commitment of teachers and students could be scarcely productive. In internet, there are many problems that we already have in the present, with one more difficult. Today, the students have not all the experience of online courses, how to behave, so they must be oriented. It's therefore useful to insert a welcome page before each lesson. And online environment should provide spaces in which students can ask questions, express doubts, propose solutions. It is also suggested to involve students through individual or cooperative learning activities according to the characteristics and the needs of the discipline. And then, last but not least, providing feedback to the students, giving them more information, supporting them to understand their mistakes and promoting new understanding and reflection. Feedback can also help us as teachers to improve the design of the future teaching activities. This is just a short text that is just a synthesis of the documents that the CRM realized in the last weeks, in the first days of the COVID-19 crisis. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. The floor to Anna Di Pace from Foggia, Modena University.
There's always this problem. Thank you, Pier Giuseppe. Thank you, everyone, to be here. And okay, me and my colleague Paolo Raviolo, we will alternate during this this round table. And I sent you, sorry, it was late maybe, but I sent you an email with the 3 main questions. We would like to, it's just a starting point actually. Maybe my connection is unstable. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Okay. we would like to, the three main questions are just a starting point, but we are very interested in discussing about the situation in your countries, because we are now living the same situation, but with a different timing, with a different timeline, as you can see in the three slides that I sent you. But we are living a global situation, very strange and very, situation. So we would like to discuss about this situation with you. And there is, I would like just to focus on an article that very recently Oj and colleagues published on Educaus, and the title is The Difference Between Emergency Remote Teaching and Online Learning. Just a few days ago, they published this article on Educo's website. And the authors differentiate between the emergency remote teaching and online learning, where emergency response means securing the emergency education, while online learning involves thoughtful planning and design of online teaching and learning experience. So we would like to start from this perspective, from this perspective level, and we would like to know what is the situation, what is your point of view. We want to start from Lorea Fernandez. She's the president of ROOT, and the ROOT is a society that is very similar to our society, CIREM. And with ROOT and with Lorea, we carried out many joint activities and participating in various initiatives mutually. So Lorea, thanks to be here with us, and we would like to know what is the situation in your country. Thank you.
Thank you, and good afternoon to everybody. Can you hear me? Yes?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Okay, and thank you for the invitation to the webinar. As you told, Anna, RUTE is a non-profit academic association with more than 25 years of experience, and we are university professors and researchers interested in promoting the educational applications of information and communication technologies. For this situation, for example, we have enabled the Help for Teachers forum in our webpage, in which we try to answer questions about the use of technology to support online teaching. In the time I have, I would like to explain, according to the program, what is the situation in Spanish universities and schools, and also trying to respond the questions you say. Okay, in Spain, the closure of schools and universities was decreed for March 16, and the first days were an authentic chaos, trying to manage the information that people received from the educational institutions like schools and universities about the ways to proceed or what had to be prioritized. Firstly, I'm going to explain the situation in the university context, and after I will speak briefly about the situation in the schools. In Spain, there is a non-profit association called CRUE that is the main interlocutor of universities with the central government and plays a key role in all regulatory development that affect higher education in our country. The first thing that was launched was an online forum of experiences on March 17 with the intention to share actions and experiences between Spanish universities. The conference was attended by more than 200 people related to online teaching. On Wednesday 18, the presidency of CRUE and the Minister of Universities agreed to hold periodic meetings between the teams of both institutions to analyze the evolution of COVID-19 and develop possible joint initiatives. Likewise, they decided to create different working groups with the aim of seeking concrete solutions to the problems that the pandemic was generating in all fronts. The working group, composed by CRUE, the Universidad Nacional de Educación a Distancia, UNED, and the Open University of Catalonia, decided to unify the previously mentioned online forum and create a platform called Connected the University at Home. This group will carry out the work of coordinating initiatives to collect useful resources, dissemination, responses to queries, and sharing action plans between Spanish universities. On March 26, a second online forum of experiences is held in which more than 300 people connected. Nothing was finalized, but there was a great concern about data protection and above all about remote surveillance during the evaluation test. In a parallel work, in different actions have been carried out from rectoral teams, virtual campuses, and the technical support groups from each of the universities. And in general, I can summarize the next. First, the universities organized quick trainings for the use of resources and virtual platforms available on each university, and more specific training on content creation like videos, questionnaires, etc. Second, the universities developed guides for resources and guidelines for online work for teachers and students. These guides received a multitude of visits in the days following the confinement. These guides are updated with a new content as the weeks go by, and in general, the use of tools, the time of visits, the number of users, the creation of hours of material has doubled. This increase in material production can lead to technical problems. So recommendations are made such as not to doing it at peak times from 10 in the morning until 1. Or using other tools not associated with the university, for example. Third, the universities develop general recommendations on monitoring, communication, and support for students. Fourth, the universities demand the adaptation and publication of the subjects and make them known to the students, as well as send them to the grade of department coordinators to monitor and control how the teachers are acting. And the last one is that the universities now are designing guidelines and recommendations for evaluations. In this moment is the most important concern in Spain. Universities, I think, are thinking in the best way to survive after these first weeks. And I do not think that the short term, there will be a specific, in short term, sorry, there will not be a specific agenda for the integration and use of educational technology. After the crisis, maybe the teachers don't want to even talk about technology for a while. So there are so many problems they are facing, and the system is putting so much stress on them. In relation to schools, the measures adopted at the different educational levels, preschool, primary, secondary, and high school, the implication and the demands are variable. For example, in the preschool stage, until the 6 years, the contact with families is being made through emails and activities to work with the little ones. I think this is a group that has had the least demand, speaking in terms of content and curriculum, because in Spain, this educational stage is not compulsory. For example, my 2 daughters are in this stage and we don't have any obligations for working, but the implication of the teachers vary from one school to another. This week, we have received, for example, some videos of the teachers encouraging them. For me, the parents' WhatsApp is another resource in which the girls and boys can see the rest of the friends doing different activities. And for me, this is very nice. In the primary school, with the different ages between 6 and 12 years, tasks has been sent, and that imply internet connection and the use of computers or other devices to carry them out. Schools with considerable digital maturity cope with the situation better than other schools. Complications arise when families do not have resources such as computer or the internet, or having to work with several children at the parents with, for example, a single computer. For this stage, and with the intention of reaching to all the students, from the national and regional public television channels and some schools, TV programs are developed to work content from different areas and levels. In the secondary school and high schools, things get even more complicated. Teachers have sought ways to teach classes through the platforms available at the center or others, and use the usual communication tools with the students. I have friends who teach in this stage, and in their opinion, there are serious problems associated with the ability to manage or know the tools, which implies time for their use and application, and the delivery of content. In general, the situation revealed that there are not real online models. Answering the question, Anna, the institutions and teachers are not prepared for the virtual education framework. I mean, it has shown an outstanding degree of development and technological maturity, and that more or less the universities have all given a relatively quick response. But if we talk about pedagogy, we have serious problems because the most of people who are at the front of line services, at the front of online services, sorry, are techniques and not teachers or educational technology teachers. For doing online, I think we should think online from the beginning. For example, right now, as I told you, in terms of the evaluations and exams, the teachers want to do the same, but in the online modality. And I think that is not the way. Finally, I would like to say that the most important question is whether something is what we are going to learn in this exceptional situation, because the teachers, students, and families are doing as well as they can. Thank you very much.
Thank you too.
Thank you very much. Your the thing you said is are very interesting. I underlined the fact that in your country seems connection, high level of coordination among at university level at least, with a joint action among all the universities. The situation with regard to the schools is more or less similar to ours. Anyway, thank you for your intervention, and I would like to introduce Enilda Romero Al, Associate Professor to the University of Tampa and a member of the ICT. To you, Enilda. Enilda?
Hi, everyone. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you very much for inviting me to the webinar. As I saw the questions, I was, you know, a little bit overwhelmed thinking about everything that's happening right now, and especially in the United States. I don't know if I can provide an entire picture for the country, but I will try my best to share some of the experiences that my colleagues are sharing online and social media and other outlets, and things that are happening and that I'm seeing at my own institution. So thinking back at the questions that were presented, some of the issues and concerns that I've seen in my interactions with colleagues is the difference that there are at the institutional level, especially in higher education, when it comes to the flexibility for synchronous versus asynchronous instruction. As it was mentioned in the article that kind of like started the discussion, what we're seeing is more of a remote teaching experience. And it's it can be a very difficult situation because for faculty members, for students, for staff members, it puts a lot of pressure. For example, I was emailing with one of my undergraduate assistants, and I wanted to do something with her, communicate with her, and she apologized. She said, I was in Zoom meetings all day, and it's challenging because, as it was mentioned by Lorena, there is that desire to kind of replicate what you were doing in a classroom environment into an online format, and that's may not necessarily be the best way to handle the situation. There has been tremendous amount of discussion about having that flexibility of having asynchronous online instruction, which can provide, again, more flexibility for faculty, more flexibility for the students. But every institution is handling the best way that they can possibly see it. On my very own institution, we are a private institution of less than 10,000 students, and online and hybrid was just something completely new. Although it is not new to me, it is completely new to the institution. And switching to online, initially the term that was used was online, and eventually it switched to remote teaching because that's the reality of what was happening. But I think that right now, institutions of higher education are trying to get through the semester and starting to think about what will happen over the summer, and even start thinking about what will happen in the fall, really, as we are becoming informed by public health officials. This is really what is happening. The other important issue that I'm seeing as we have gone into like this remote teaching format is that it is providing clear evidence of the digital divide. When we think of a country as the United States, we often make the assumption that there's equal access, but even with my own students at my institution in Florida, a private institution, I am very mindful of the situation that is happening with my students. Prior to the pandemic of COVID-19, I've had students who have told me, unfortunately, I don't have access after 8 p.m. because the library is closed, and that's where I have access to internet, right? So right now, we are seeing a clear understanding and clear evidence that there is a large digital divide among students. There's lack of access to internet, and sometimes even lack of access to the hardware, okay? Just like it was mentioned by Lorena, I want to also kind of like talk a little bit about some of the things that I've seen happening in the United States and in other countries. I've mentioned prior to starting the webinar that I'm originally from Panama, and this is where I was as everything was starting with COVID-19, at least in the Americas, at the very beginning of March. And what I've seen is there's a difference in how we have the discourse about continuing education as we are dealing with the pandemic of COVID-19. Immediately in the United States, we jumped to the term online teaching and learning, whereas in other countries like Panama, I've seen more solutions that are geared towards individuals who may not have access to internet, who may not have access to a computer, in which foundations and government institutions are taking on to do more radio and TV. And you can see this are being shared widely via social media. So we have to think beyond the internet access. We have to think beyond internet and think about distance education, not just online education. Also reflecting on some of the questions that were posted prior to the webinar, thinking about the future and what we need to consider is instructional design practice for all, and that's what I'm calling it right now, instructional design practice for all in higher education, not just for the instructors. We are seeing entire universities shift to an online environment. I can tell you in my own personal experience, my partner who supervises a writing center, they have shifted their services entirely to an online format. So a student who was prior coming to an center for academic success, getting tutoring for science, math, writing, they are now trying to access those same services in an online format. And we have to think about how we're going to provide access to learners, not only for their education, the courses that they're taking, but alternate services. So I have recently been working with colleagues from the Association for Educational Communications and Technology. We worked on a paper currently under review that actually discuss instructional design practice for staff members, for administrators, for anyone who really wasn't an instructional designer, because we have to think about continuing education past just the regular instruction. A few years ago, I was at a conference in Hong Kong, and one of my colleagues mentioned that in his institution, instructors are required to put all of their materials in some sort of online platform, whether it is the learning management system of the institution or it is some other kind of repository, because it gives them an opportunity to become familiar with an online environment, right? I have to be very honest. I have colleagues who, although they have access to the learning management system, have never used it, never ever used it. And I'm just thinking right at this moment, how is this person coping with this current situation where we have just shifted everything to an online environment? Something else that I would like to point out that is extremely important at this moment, and I think that overall, when it comes to switching to remote teaching or online distance learning, is care and wellness of the instruction and care and wellness of our students. And there needs to be that that level of kindness. There needs to be that level of care for our students as we are all in this together. And I just wanted to point out an article that a colleague, Nicola Pallet from Rhodes University in South Africa has recently written and shared online, titled "Thinking Beyond Technology When Teaching Remotely," because it talks quite a bit about care and wellness for faculty members and care and wellness for our students. One of the last questions talked about the future and what we're going to do as we move forward and how we're going to build this collaboration internationally and between colleagues. And I think what you're doing right now, professional organizations taking on leadership roles and bringing colleagues from different institutions together, this is what we need to see more. And if I can, I'm gonna give a shout out to the Association for Educational Communications and Technology, AECT, for their rapid response during these difficult times. They've actually dedicated a page in their website called Covid-19, in which they have also shared webinars with experts in the fields, and they have curated content that is shared for colleagues to have access to. It's really difficult to know what are the needs that everyone has, because we are all in different kinds of institutions with different needs, but having this kind of repository that individuals can reach and look at when they have time, it's really important. So yeah, thank you again for giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts.
Thank you.
Thank you. To
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. It was very interesting your point of view, and I think that I also absolutely agree with you, because you talk about you discussed about some keywords that I think that we can understand a lot, because the problem of accessibility, the problem of awareness, the problem of digital divide, the access to the libraries or the different environments, I think is a common problem in this moment. And so I totally agree with you, and I hope that there will be a kind of collaboration between us in order to try to find the best solution in order to try to solve this kind of problems that we are sharing in some way. So thank you very much. I would like to give the floor to Ahmed Tili. Ahmed Tili is from the Smart Learning Institute of Being Normal University in China. So in this moment, we are the more involved in this difficult situation. So US, Italy, USA, Italy, and China and Spain. So thank you, Ahmed Tili, to be here. Are you there?
Hi, yeah, hi, do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So thank you for inviting me today. And yeah, today, Europe in general, like Italy, Spain, are more affected than China. And hopefully things get back to normal soon. So yeah, regarding online education, so as you know, in China, China started online education since 1960. So they started delivering online and remote education since 1960 using like radios, TVs, and stuff like that. However, the problem now, when we wanted to apply online learning during this unexpected critical situations, we have faced several problems. So the first problem is teachers are not their online materials because things are unexpected. So usually teachers are providing courses face-to-face, but now and in a short time, they need to prepare their courses and put it online. So first, we are talking about the problem of time. Second, just like several of my colleagues now mentioned, we are talking about technical skills. So many of the teachers, they don't have the technical skills to put their courses online. Third, we are talking about long online teaching experience or learning experience. And here we are talking about student and teachers isolations. So usually in China, we provide blended learning. So as you know, blended learning is online learning and face-to-face learning. However, now in this critical moment, since face-to-face activities are all banned, so we need to provide online teaching and online teaching for 3 months. So here we are talking about isolations of both teachers and students. And lastly, we are talking about new innovative teaching methods to keep students active and interactive during this long period. So this is mostly the problems that we have faced when we are preparing our courses or when we are talking with teachers to prepare or to design the learning materials. So in this critical moment, we have, and to answer the first questions, we have 2 types of providing learning content. The first one is remote teaching, and in remote teaching, the first step that the government did is to digitalize all learning materials. And here we are talking about all national textbooks are provided as digital learning content, and they are provided on online cloud learning library. And in this cloud, everyone can access to this cloud materials for free, and they can download these textbooks learn. The second thing that the government did is remove all barriers to learning, which means like all databases are now open and students can access to all materials without the need to pay or without the need for membership or without the need to create an account. So the first easy methods is to digitalize the learning content and to remove all barriers. However, just like my colleagues now said, we have the problem of internet, and remote and rural areas in China is very big. So as a second method to provide accessible learning materials, and as we know, UNESCO has emphasized about accessible learning. So to provide accessible learning, we have used telecourses. So we have CCTV channels, 4 CCTV channels, and they provided 24 hours courses for teachers, for students. Also, we have used radio courses. So we have provided courses via radios. And finally, we also used phone teaching. So we have some departments who hired some teachers and they worked with some families to provide teaching through phones. So they call families and they start talking with the students and trying to help them out. Those, especially phone teaching, was used especially with primary school children. So this phone teaching method was mostly used with the primary school children. For online learning, of course, as you all know, we have used synchronous and asynchronous learning, and also we have used hybrid education. It means both, combining both synchronous and asynchronous. Also, we have used open education. As you all know now, OER is one of the one of the directions that UNESCO is now focusing on. And as we know, with OER is open educational resources. With open educational resources, we could find very good materials, quality materials. Also, we are now talking about open teaching. So in open teaching, we are talking about learner-centered approaches, not teacher-centered approaches. So we are using open teaching, open assessment, open collaborations, all these things. We are using it to provide an interactive and active learning experience to students. So about the pedagogies that we have used, just like I said, we have used open teaching. Also, we have used game-based learning and gamified learning. As we all know, all our children now and all the students are playing video games. And we all know that the market of video games is rapidly increasing worldwide, and especially in China and in the US. So now we are talking about game-based learning. And actually, that's one of our research that we are focusing on. So we are using game-based learning and gamified learning to make the students very active. For instance, we are using leaderboard. As you know, in leaderboard, the students can see their score and the score of others, and then they will get motivated in order to answer more questions and to engage more with the learning content in order to gain more scores and be their friends. So in this way, we are talking about competition. So we have used leaderboard, we have used the progress bar, we have used also forum and chats as a mean of communications. So we have used both game-based learning and gamified learning to provide fun, interactive, and active learning experience for students. Of course, for the assessment, one of the methods that we have used is project-based assessment. So how to assess our students or how to give them marks for their exams. So we have used project-based assessment. In these projects, we give them some assessments to do. Then we ask them to present their work. Those project-based assessment could be individually or in groups. And then we ask them to do some presentations. And based on these presentations, based on the content of the projects, we will try to make some sort of like, how to say it, like a framework, and provide each part some marks. And this is one of the methods that we implemented in order to facilitate given marks to students, because as you know, in China, we have 270 million students, and it will be very difficult, you know, to provide exams for them online. So that will be like very difficult, especially how to prevent cheating with 270 million students. So that's very difficult and very challenging for us. So one of the methods that we are using now is as I said, is project-based assessment. And yeah, for the second one, how we should plan for this forced educational and digital transformations. One of the first thing is, just like my colleague said, is build the capacity of stakeholders. So one of the problems that we have faced is a lot of teachers, they don't know nothing about online teaching, even though they know a lot of repositories or they know a lot of learning management systems, but they never used it. So this is one of the problems. And again, the questions that I have attended like several webinars, and the question that I always ask, what are the basic skills for online educations? Because I have seen several organizations talking about the basic skills, but my question is, what are these basic skills? What we should teach our teachers and what we should teach our learners in order to handle online learning? This is one of the questions that I couldn't find an answer for it. I have seen a lot of frameworks with different competencies and different skills, but there is no unified or standardized skills that everyone can refer to, and then we could provide trainings based on these skills. So this is one of the challenges that I have faced. Also, we need to develop supportive institutional policies. Now, what do we mean by supportive institutional policies? Here we need like to initiate some policies in order for institutions to encourage their teachers to provide good digital content online, so teachers can access to. We need to encourage institutions to develop their online repositories, so teachers can put their content there. So this is another problem. We have a lot of institutions and we have a lot of schools without any online platforms or even without any website. So this is very challenging for us. Third thing, and this is one of the things that we are working on as well, is sustainable online learning models. We cannot deny that we need money for like sustainable online learning, especially when we are talking about open education now. One of the challenges now about open education, open education, you don't charge learners for money in order to read or to learn or to access learning materials. But we still need money to pay experts. We need to pay money for the technical solutions, like paying for the platform, paying for the cloud. So without money, we cannot provide sustainable online learning. So this is one of the things that we need to think about. The fourth thing that we need to think about, how to emphasize the relationship between the government, private companies, and parents and schools. So let me give you, for instance, an example of China. Here we have private companies, especially communication companies like Huawei, like China Mobile. Those companies helped us to build a reliable infrastructure, so at least 50 million students can access to the national cloud without interruption. So we need more cooperation like this, because if you are talking about pandemic, we will talk about millions of students accessing to one server at the same time. So here we are talking about the bandwidth, we are talking about a lot of things. So we need to build strong.
Ahmed, I have to ask you to end your contribution,
yes.
please. Thank you.
Yes. Just 1 minute. Thank you so much. Okay, now we move to the last question about how we should collaborate. So the first one that we should collaborate about is quality digital resources. Quality digital resources means development of international, for instance, open curricula. Also, the second one that we could collaborate about is innovative pedagogical approaches like game-based learning, open teaching. The third thing that we should collaborate about is smart learning. If we are talking about smart learning, we are talking about machine learning techniques and artificial intelligence. For instance, we could talk about adaptive learning, detecting at-risk students, automatic dashboards using learning analytics, and finally, just like I said, sustainable online learning models. And thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your contribution. I see some interesting aspect in your in what you said. First of all, it emerged that there seems to be a centralized, organized approach to the problem, that it's a good thing in an emergency situation. And I think it's interesting your what you said about the assessment. That is one of the key aspects even for us, and I think for every colleague working in the field. So I think this is very interesting, and your stress on the sustainable online learning, that is a key aspect. And even on the different kind of media you use, not only the digital media, but even TV and radio, that could be interesting because some of all of our country, I think, have the digital divide problem still there. Well, let's go to the next speaker, that is Fabio Nascimbeni from the Universidad Internacional de La Joya, Spain. And I would ask to Fabio if he can give us some view on which some network, some European Union network like ICDA, Eden, EADL are doing, if there are some interesting actions of a statement coming out from there. Up to you, Fabio Nascimbeni.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the invitation. Actually, I'm representing here a Spanish institution, but when I saw Ruth as the first speaker, I said, okay, better let Ruth speak about Spain. Actually, I can just report very shortly our experience. My university, UNIR, is a private online university, even if pretty young, but rather large, more than around 40,000 students at the moment. And actually, it's interesting to see in the big disruption that is happening everywhere in universities, even in let's say, universities that have a long tradition of online work. It's interesting to see how online universities, fully online universities are being touched by the issue. For example, within UNIR, of course, we took some emergency measures, both in administrative terms and also in terms of one thing we have never done, that was online exams and online defense of master thesis and of PhD thesis. Now we are doing this online. So let's say from an innovation point of view, this has been a push in our case. And actually, I have to say, but apart from that, and apart, of course, from the problems connected to health of professors and of students, and some, of course, resources issue of some students that had to stop their careers there. I think it's interesting to see how the disruption is not so hard in this kind of university. So it's a case where actually it has been more a push towards innovation than actually an emergency situation to try to do things differently. Then after that, I wanted to share with you some thoughts and some developments that are happening at the European and at the global level. Actually, Ahmed, who was speaking before, humbly did not mention that the Smart Learning Institute was at the center of a big operation together with UNESCO Moscow, the Institute of Information Technology and Education, if I remember well the name, that developed some interesting guidelines that want to be global, actually. So maybe Ahmed, later on, if we during the discussion, you might want to point to that. Actually, so the first thing is the main European and international networks have actually taken a strong position and are leading, I would say, a reaction movement in this moment. The most, I would say, active one is probably ICDE, the International Council of Open and Distance Education from Norway, that has developed. I don't know if I should share my screen and show the websites of these institutions. Should I? Quickly, I have them ready. So.
Yes. Yeah.
Problem.
Okay, so just to show you very quickly let me find it. Yes, here. very quickly, then I can send you the links. But here you can see, let me start from ICDE. Yes, ICDE has developed a lot of, I would say, gathering of information, and especially, they've set up a specific website under this hashtag learning together. As everybody, as CRM also, they have developed important webinars. Webinars in this field these days are getting crazy numbers. The webinar by Tony Bates by Eden was reaching more than 600 participants, which is actually much more than these technical webinars normally. And for example, in this site, this website by ICDE, you can see a collection of all the different initiatives that are taking place by UNESCO, what I was mentioning before, by the Commonwealth of Learning, by EADTU, and others, also at institutional level. Then, of course, as we said, this is the webpage of the handbook on facilitating flexible learning during educational disruption that started from China, but was also promoted and developed through a similar webinar like the one we are having now with experts from all over the world. Then I'll go to Eden, the European Distance and E-Learning Network, that is also pushing hard through its members to try to, let's say, build this emergency capabilities through webinars and through a collection of resources. Another interesting activity by the DQ Institute, I don't know if you know them, that it's an institute based in Singapore, and they work on digital literacy for children especially, so it's a bit outside university, but I think it's pretty interesting. It's an institute connected to IEEE, connected to ECDE itself, OECD itself, so it's a rather established institute, but what they are launching is a sort of a call to governments to build a bottom-up emergency fund. So they have made a calculation. They said, we need to bring especially in this moment, we need to increase digital literacy of children, because by having everybody online much more than before, if we don't develop these skills, the risks can really be terrible. And so they have calculated how much it costs for children to be trained through their system. They have a platform with a lot of content and so on. They have tutors and a minimal but very interesting program with a framework of competencies and everything well prepared. And now they are talking to governments and to government associations like OECD to see if governments want to put money in there to have a global strategy for against actually digital illiteracy, and in order not to widen the divide that we were discussing before. And then I'd like to close with a note by the European Commission itself. Actually, if you look at the European Commission, what they are doing from Brussels, apart from a web page with a lot of resources, it seems they are not doing a lot, actually. Well, in fact, the Commission is at the moment developing its own digital action plan with a very strong component of education through a number of working groups. I was involved in some of these. There is especially a working group called Delta, Digital Education, Teaching, Learning and Assessment. And actually, pretty strange, all this work has been stopped now, and it is being rethought in view of the present emergency. So I think this work, the preparation of the digital action plan has lasted for more than 1 year. And now the European Commission is trying to widen the scope of this work in order to take into account all the things that are happening, actually. So I think it's an interesting development because this will be actually a European policy that will not go on like in the normal pipeline process of European institutions, but has actually stopped and will be taking stock of all the work done. So and actually, as a personal comment, even if we know that the crisis is pretty hard and the sense of emergency, and I like what was quoted at the beginning, the EduCause paper moving from trying to move from emergency to innovation, actually to move a bit out of the emergency situation. I have to say, I've never seen such a strong and common activity in terms of partnerships, and this relates to the third question of all these big networks. It seems that now they're all converging. Normally networks, as we know, tend to, I don't want to say compete, but tend to overlap a bit, and it's difficult for them to work towards a very specific objective. But now if you look at EAD2U, ACDE, ICDE, Eden, and many more, EADL and other networks, if you just go on all their websites, it seems they're all converging towards the same objective. And this is, let's say, in the medium term, is a hope for a better collaboration in the field we are all working in. So that's, I would say, a positive development out of the big crisis we are in. I'll stop here, minding of time.
Thank you, Fabio. Thank you very much for your contribution. Well, actually, yesterday we were discussing about the fact that this crisis is actually dangerous from one end, and for the other hand, is an opportunity. So you can confirm that we have opportunities, like, for example, the collaboration. And it's very interesting to know that many society, scientific society, are moving on this emergency and are trying to find solutions or to find the way to collaborate all together in order to find solutions. I've just read the report published by OECD, where there is a framework to guide an education response to the COVID-19, the pandemic of 2020. And there are also many countries that are trying to give the priority responses to this emergency. So thank you very much for your contribution. Now I would like to give the floor to Jim Mao. Are you there? Jim Mao is from School of Education, Wills University in Pennsylvania, United States of America. Are you there,
Hi.
Jim?
Hi.
Okay.
Hi, I'm from Wilkes University in Pennsylvania. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you very much.
I guess there are many experts from the field who can talk about all this in a profound way, but I would be happy to share my own experience and also my observation of all this. When all of this first started, online learning as a terminology came out from all over the news and the internet. It seemed that it's being promoted as a panacea to all the problems we're faced with when the schools are closed. And then professionals from all over the world, all over our field in different countries came out to try to differentiate how online learning is different from what we're having right now. It's basic more like the remote teaching or virtual classes or emergency teaching. So all these different terminologies. So I shared this with my doctoral candidates in my courses this semester. And I shared my thoughts, and I also shared some resources shared by people who wrote very good opinion-based articles about the topic. And I didn't expect that my sharing on a forum invited a lot of passionate responses from my students who are teachers, who are parents, and who are also, probably some of them are also administrators for schools. And they felt this conversation is very timely and therapeutic in a way, because they had so many thoughts on their mind that they wanted to share, and so many questions on their mind. It's overwhelming to them. I guess this phenomenon, this thing is both good and bad in many ways. It could be a disastrous thing to online learning. At the same time, it could also lead to a lot of opportunities for us to rethink online learning design, and also rethink how many factors about online course design that we have never thought thought of, or we thought about those factors, but we never consider those in the actual design development of the online courses or the implementation of online courses. Considering what I have been exchanging with my students in my courses and also what I have personally experienced, I felt like a lot of discussions about teaching and learning at this time would actually eventually go to survival and learning rather than grades and accountability. The reason I'm mentioning this is because in our faculty meeting just this week, university faculty meeting online, there was a huge discussion also through our email threads, a huge discussion in terms of our university's views on giving students pass or fail as a grade rather than the normal grades. We have different opinions, obviously, and some think we should give them the normal grades and just we can extend, the semester and give them an incomplete as grades, and they can complete everything later on. Other views other views, including my own. I tend to remember one word that one of my students shared on the forum. It's about survival. So I hope that all the education leaders and educators can take this into consideration. Think about how much pressure, how much stress our students are experiencing, how many families are, what they're going through at the moment. So I think I tend to say, I tend to hold the view that it's more about survival and learning rather than grades and accountability at the moment. So another point I wanted to mention is the digital divide problem, as shared by the other panelists already. I felt the crisis has forced all of us to realize that the huge impact on all of us would make us reflect and rethink about digital divide, how we define it, and what happens when it actually really happens. Because digital divide is not something new. I mean, it is a topic that has been discussed for decades. However, this is probably the first time we're actually seeing how digital divide would negatively impact those who do not have the technology in reality. From what I see, some kids have access to technology, and some schools have access to technology, and they are better prepared. Or on the other hand, although in the United States, as Inalda mentioned a little bit earlier, I agree completely. It's not that every family has access to technology. So I've read on social media, many families are still struggling with their actual life, not to mention the technology side. And also, even if they have the technology, the internet connection is a big problem as well. So I wanted to be mindful all the time. I try to remind myself when I change how I communicate with my students and how I keep up with my students' current status. And in my communication, I try to remind myself all the time, be mindful that we are not only teachers or students or parents. Every person is wearing multiple hats, and we are teachers, parents, stakeholder, administrator, several hats all the time, all different roles at one time. So we're just struggling and trying to do our job at the same time taking care of the family. So in my communication with my students, I try to tell them the courses should not be your priority at the time. Take care of yourself, take care of family first, and then think about the coursework. So all of this make me reflect on the factors related to this online teaching environment, how many factors we have considered in a system view and how many have not, and how many are actually critical in this time. So those are my thoughts on the first question. And on the second question, I felt the question is, how should we plan this forced education digital transformation process? My first reaction to this question would be, no one actually was able to plan on this ahead of time. But for future, I would imagine distance learning should become a normal backup for traditional teaching and learning, considering the natural environment we're faced with now. And I think it will take a lot of effort for people to realize distance learning as a normal way to support normal school learning, and how much and we should involve every stakeholder in this process, students, parents, administrators, and even common people together to improve computer literacy, and also we have to get ready from the hardware and software aspects. And learning technology should not only be something that a small group of people like us who are interested in, but it should be a necessity for the society. That's my thoughts regarding number two. And my reaction to the third question, how should university and the main stakeholders at international level cooperate to build a sound educational policy? I think we should definitely collaborate to inform one another, to learn from one another, and so that we can make educational policies better, and make educational policies that can reduce inequality, can minimize the negative impact on the students, especially for those who don't have access to technology, who don't have the same level of parental care in different families. So briefly, these are all my thoughts. For future, I think for research per se, I co-authored a book chapter last year regarding online course design and within us using system thinking and system dynamics model. And I think when I think about all this, I just felt like my book chapter last year, the work is just the beginning. I look forward to more work in this regard because it's so relevant. It brings in so many factors that we as instructional designers, as educational technologists, or as instructors, professors who have never thought about this before, like in reality, what happens if this comes into reality. But now the reality, the future, I guess, is the reality now. So I'm really looking forward to a lot of work in this area. Thank you for the invite. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you for you.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry, but I had to turn off the video because I'm a victim of the digital divide. I'm sorry. Well, well, I think a couple of aspects in your intervention, Jen, as sounds to me very interesting. The first one is the top of the pressure and the students and families that is very high and have to take in account. And this is the same in every country, and aspects have been underlined even by the other speakers. Well, another aspect is that the digital divide, and you see the digital divide not only in terms of network accessibility, but even in terms of digital literacy. That I think it's a key aspect, and it's even in one of your objectives for the future to improve. I think, if I understand well, the digital literacy. This is one of our commitment as person working in the educational field. I think this is very important. This is a true part of the digital divide. Even in our country, digital divide has been see very often as a technical problem. It's not only a technical problem, but especially a cultural problem. Well, now, thank you for your intervention, and let's go to the next speaker, that is Monica Fantin from the Federal University of Santa Catarina, Florianopolis, Brazil. Well, Monica, can you hear me?
Sì, grazie.
Okay, up to you.
Allora, un piacere essere qui. Io chiedo scusa e anche apologize for my colleagues, but I speak in Italy and maybe anyone can translate. Allora, parlerò un po' sulla situazione di Brasile e anche io ho la connessione un po' instabile, per questo se è successo qualcosa dopo dobbiamo provare un'altra volta. Allora mi piacerebbe cominciare parlando un po' della situazione, non so se voi già avete parlato su questo, dell'alta complessità che stiamo vivendo in diversi ambiti. Vivendo algo inedito, mai è successo questo di fermarsi tutta la città, il lavoro delle persone nello stesso tempo nelle storie recenti. E per questo, secondo me, è un momento unico che ci porta a pensare anche certi valori, non solo dell'educazione, però della vita, perché prima di formare insegnanti, professori, stiamo parlando della formazione umana. E per questo mi sembra importante discutere anche questo momento che stiamo vivendo di una pandemia, non è una vita normale. E per questo non è possibile far finta che non c'è niente, perché ha cambiato la nostra vita. E dobbiamo anche pensare alle strategie di sopravvivenza e cercare di assicurare quello che è più importante in questo momento. E soprattutto io parlerò di questo contesto nostro brasiliano, in questo nostro contesto socioculturale, perché come voi dovete accompagnare...
Monica,
Sì?
scusami, magari facciamo così, se fai degli interventi brevi, noi dopo li traduciamo in modo da consentire a tutti di comprendere, va bene?
Ok, va bene.
Grazie.
Posso continuare allora?
Vai.
Sì, è breve, sì. Allora, come voi sapete, il nostro presidente è contro l'isolamento sociale, però lo Stato e le città hanno fatto la sua politica discordando di lui. La mia università è stata una delle prime a fare la sospensione delle lezioni presenziali e una settimana dopo è sospeso tutte le attività. Così nella nostra università siamo tutti fermati.
Traduci,
E
Paolo.
perché è successo questo?
Matti. Vai Paolo.
Ok, aspetta un secondo, traduco velocemente quello che hai detto. Yes, sorry. Well, I try to make a very quick translation. Well, she said that she thinks that this is a new situation and a challenging situation, and sorry. In Brazil, every different institution. I'm sorry, Monica, can you repeat the last aspect?
Sì, perché la mia università è stata
semplicemente che, scusa, di semplicemente che il presidente era contrario, invece molte realtà si sono autonomamente organizzate per...
Ok.
Sì,
okay.
E anche nella università c'è una direzione del ministero, però le università hanno autonomia e hanno deciso ognuna di vedere la sua situazione.
Faccio una sintesi. Well, the government didn't agree to the emergence of the virus, but the local institution and many universities decided to organize themselves to cope with this emergency and sometimes to intervene. Vai Monica.
Allora, in un primo momento è sospeso le lezioni presenziali proponendo l'educazione online e attività remota, però una settimana dopo ha cancellato anche questo, perché soprattutto considerando la situazione dei nostri studenti e la digital divide, la maggioranza ha avuto molta difficoltà di connessione, non hanno infrastruttura a casa, una routine diversa, deve curare altre persone e così anche la bassa qualità della rete di connessione hanno fatto i rettori decidere di cancellare anche questa attività.
Vai
Così,
Paolo.
Aspetta un attimo Maria. Allora, well, after 1 week, many universities suspended presence activity like lectures and so on, and started remote activities, online learning. But after 1 week, even the online activity was suspended because most of the students experienced digital divide problems and didn't have enough time to attend the online lessons due to their charge in assisting families and so on. Prego Monica, vai.
grazie. Allora, 60% dell'università pubblica federale, che vuol dire non pagata da noi, hanno rigettato l'adozione di educazione online in questa quarantena, soprattutto per non garantire una qualità e accesso a tutti gli studenti. Così nell'ambito della postgraduazione, di master, di dottorato, di ricerca, si continua a fare anche solo orientamento in piccoli gruppi, per videoconferenza. Nell'ambito dell'università privata particolare, la maggioranza sta continuando a lavorare con l'educazione online, però un grosso problema della sovraccarica degli professori. E c'è tutta una discussione che non si può chiedere al professore che ha mai lavorato con l'educazione online di adesso imparare a fare progettazione, a sapere le condizioni, senza sapere le condizioni di alunno, senza materiale.
Un attimo Monica, scusami. Well, about 60% of public universities, federal universities, decided to stop their online activity according to the problem that we highlighted before, and they are only going on with some activity for online activity for PhDs, similar training. Well, on the contrary, the private universities are still going on with online education, online teaching, but are facing the same problems that we listen from the other speakers. So the lacking of teacher skills and the amount of work that they need to work out online learning. Ok, Monica, prego.
Ecco, allora, considerando che la maggioranza degli professori non hanno queste competenze e non stanno preparati per lavorare con questo, c'è bisogno di adeguare di tempo per lavorare in questa situazione, anche perché per non rafforzare una immagine un po' debole anche che l'educazione a distanza e online possa avere in questa forma. Oltre a questo, dobbiamo pensare, faccio anche una sintesi delle 3 domande, che non è possibile solo pensare l'educazione come trasmissione di contenuto. C'è tutta anche una discussione del virus del conteudismo, Perché tante volte la nostra educazione è ancora un po' conservatora e dobbiamo anche ripensare questa possibilità sul che educazione vogliamo adesso e nel futuro. E considerando che insegno non è solo trasferenza di sapere, dobbiamo anche vedere che tipo di apprendimento stiamo proponendo. Così dobbiamo cercare un altro sguardo su questa forma di educare e di insegnare.
Perfetto, un momento Monica.
Ok, mettiamo magari delle traduzioni rapide in chat, senza tradurre, così acceleriamo.
Ok, quindi...
Vai Monica.
Posso continuare?
Vai, Monica.
Allora,
Okay.
questo è un altro sguardo su questo modo di educare e di fare l'insegnanza e apprendimento, approfittando anche questa situazione di una travessia nel deserto per pensare se tutto questo anche non sarebbe un contenuto di apprendimento sulla vita che stiamo vivendo in questo momento. Così le domande che dopo posso anche discutere con i miei colleghi che sono esperti dell'educazione online, però pensiamo sempre dell'importanza di intensificare questo dibattito intorno di educazione online nell'università, anche sulla politica pubblica di formazione di questi professori in tutti gli ambiti dell'università, però anche di bambini e di adolescenti. Ampliare anche la discussione della infrastruttura universitaria, tecnica e anche di appoggio su questo, discutendo sempre che educazione si vuole, conteudista, trasmissiva, dialogica, e anche rafforzare l'importanza della ricerca collaborativa in differenti contesti sociali.
Ok.
Well,
thank you.
Grazie.
Grazie.
Perfect. Well, Anna, I don't know if you would like to make intervention. I would like to underline that Monica said us that the question that comes from the challenge that COVID-19 pose now to us can have to be faced even asking to ourselves what kind of learning we are providing and what will be the approach.
Paolo, there's a lot of noise. Maybe your microphone is on the table.
I'm sorry. Now it's better. Okay.
Okay.
Well, sorry. Yes, and Monica said that this is a political problem that we needed to think to a new technical infrastructure for universities, but even to a new approach to teaching at university level and to the kind of learning we would like to produce after this moment, this emergency moment. And I think that is more or less all.
I would like to just add something about the contribution of Monica, if possible, just in a few minutes. I really appreciate the Monica contribution because in Brazil, there is a very important problem of accessibility and of digital divide. And they have many problems because of, there is the COVID that is the emergency. And then you have a strange president. So you have to face many problems. I mean, you have the president that is giving you some, kind of rules that he changed the rules in maybe 2 or 3 hours. So you don't know how to move and what direction is better to cover. So it's very interesting to hear your contribution, because I think that you have many problems to solve. And so maybe it would be very interesting to find a way to collaborate and to share these problems that we are trying to face every day in this period. Thank you, Monica. Thank you very much. I don't know if there is someone, maybe. maybe we,
Fazzi
Fazzi,
Baroud.
Fazzi,
Yeah,
are you there? Okay,
yeah.
so Fazzi Baroud is Assistant Vice President for Information Technology in Notre Dame University, Paris, France. So thank you, Fazzi, to be here and to accept our invitation.
Yeah.
Can you please share with us what is the situation in your
Yeah, hello everyone. Thank you for the invitation. My name is Fawzi Baroud. I'm from Beirut, Lebanon, from Notre Dame University. It's different than the Notre Dame University in the United States. I would like to share my experience. You know, of course, our university, it's a private institution, and now, you know, the whole university, the whole schooling system, we don't, you know, it's closed. So, that was back we closed the 12th of March. And under this situation, let me just first briefly give you, you know, some background about, you know, what we are doing at the university in terms of technology and stuff like that. You know, I have introduced the, you know, like the e-learning thing, the Blackboard. You know, we have a virtual learning environment, you know, since 2001 at the university. So we have a culture at the university of what we call, you know, like the blended learning environment, you know, and since then, you know, we've been doing workshop training for faculty members about how using the virtual learning environment, but also other digital tools at the university. But another thing is, you know, we don't have in Lebanon online universities because for one single reason is that we don't have still now rules and regulations at the government level that permit us to offer online degrees. So that's why, you know, most of the universities in Beirut, Lebanon, they use this blended hybrid approach. This is one thing. Another thing you have to know about Beirut, Lebanon, you know, we had, you know, the revolution before the COVID problem. We had the revolution, big revolution in Lebanon. And all of a sudden, we have now the Corona COVID-19 thing, you know, that's affecting the whole country. So we have so many problems. Plus, in addition, I'm telling you all this to tell you what the environment we are working under. Since the civil war, you know, we have problem with the electricity in Lebanon. You know, we have around 10 to 12 hours electricity per day. But the good thing about Lebanese is that, you know, they're, since 1975, they are used to for always finding alternative. Okay, we are very much used to alternatives. Okay, if we don't have electricity, we have generators. If this role, we have some fighting in this area, we take different roles. So we are very much used to make alternatives. So this is some background about the situation in Lebanon. But let me tell you, you know, my approach. You know, I'm leading the information technology at the university and the e-learning center. And I thought I have to put a very simple plan. And this is, you know, this is from my experience. The simple plan, first of all, I didn't call it online. I didn't mention online teaching. I just said, you know, this is an emergency and we're gonna move to a remote teaching. And it means what? Meaning that, you know, the physically the university is not there anymore. The classrooms are not there. So I said, you know, instead of having this, I'm gonna have the learning management system at the university. It's our physical location. Okay, this is one thing. The second point is that the professors at the university are not there. They're gonna be doing their work remotely. So I have to find a tool or the right tool, just one tool, okay, to so that the professor at my university can present their lectures to the student. And this is exactly what happened. So I started before we closed, you know, like we knew that we're gonna close. So I started with doing workshop face-to-face for our faculty members, okay, preparing them. And most of them, we have about 500 faculty members. So most of them, attended those workshops. And then all of a sudden, we stopped, and the president said that, our students were informed that on the 16th of March, we're gonna start regular classes, but virtually. And every professor has to give his weekly lectures virtually using the tool. So now what I have used is I decided, because we have the Microsoft Office 365. This is something that we have. We have Skype for Business. Okay, this is the one I use. Why? Because I didn't go Zoom, I didn't go any other platforms, and the reason is that all our email systems, staff, student, and faculty members, they are under Office 365. So then I started the online training for our faculty member, using how to use Skype for Business. Just one single tool I used, the Skype for Business, and I did training. And of course, I trained the staff member in my department, how to offer support. And the key, from my experience, was the support that we offer to our faculty member. We offered support one-on-one basis. Yani every single faculty member, okay, from his house, from wherever he is, sending email to the help desk, we contact him and we solve his problem with what we call like Team Viewer and AnyDesk. So this was the success of our what we have done at the university. It was the support that we offer to our faculty member. We didn't tell them, take this PDF file or take this instruction and do it. We have done this, but again, the support was very crucial at this moment. So the first week we had a lot of emails, a lot of questions, a lot of unbelievable how much we received the first week. But now after 2 weeks, doing this, things are very stable. Our faculty members are so happy. Our students are happy because why? Because the faculty members know how to handle this tool of presenting their courses online. Okay, this is at the university level. So I would say now things are very well. At other universities in Lebanon, they're doing the same, but they're not, the support, because we have a consortium of CIOs in Lebanon, about 8-10 of us. We talk all the time, we chat all the time. They're not offering this support. They couldn't offer this support because it's a very big, it needs a lot of work to offer support one-to-one for faculty members. So what they're doing, they're giving, putting on their website, they're sending, instruction via email, all those things, and they're doing okay. This is at the university level. What I'm doing now next is something come up is the assessment issue, and this is one of the questions here in our discussion. For the assessment, as you all know, like Moodle platform, all those virtual learning environment, they have all the tools for assessment, all different type of questions. But the thing is, instructors are worried about how about plagiarism, about cheating, about what can we do? Huh? For example, one of the universities in Lebanon, what they've done is they implemented a GIS system. GIS systems to locate, the student where in which area he is, and then before he can take the exam, they say, well, I am located, my home is here or whatever. This is this is one method. But the method I'm using now, and I'm gonna start my first workshop on Monday, next Monday, is using a tool which I activated now under Microsoft. It's called Microsoft Forms, to create quick quizzes. It means what? It means that, I'm giving my presentation or lecture online via Skype. At the same time, the professor can just put a link, a small link, for his student, and he will give them time to complete the quiz. And this is something I believe it's going to be very efficient so that our faculty member can evaluate, between formative, summative assessment, all those different type of assessment. So this tool, I will introduce it, next week. And this will solve a lot of our problems. Another thing I've done also in regard to assessment, I have curated about 20 pages, and I have divided the resources for remote teaching. For example, communicating with your student, what are the activities and what is the tool, pointing to the tool, okay? And then moving down to how delivering your content, what activity you want to perform. For example, if you want to use the discussion board, and then pointing to the tool. Then I move on to the how to assess the student, and some of the method I have proposed to our faculty member is, for example, have students complete a paper, project, digital poster, present for them deep complex cases, to analyze, use a short answer question like the one I'm gonna demonstrate next week. And then some instructor ask us, what about, like courses we teach in dance and performing art and stuff like that. So also, I gave them some suggestion about what type of assessment they can use, for example, for performance-based activities. And then, of course, I talked about the Blackboard exam. And then one other issue arises is, how about the labs? Our instructor in the lab. What I've done is also, I have curated so many websites, about 15 websites, where our faculty member can use those resources, and they are free and open. By the way, I am the UNESCO OER chair in Lebanon and in the area now. I was recently appointed, and I do a lot of work with open education resources, open content, and stuff like that. So I have curated for for our faculty member so many websites which are for labs, all different type of lab, biology lab, chemistry lab, all different type of lab, which our faculty member found them very, very, very helpful. So this is what's happening at our university in general, at the higher education level. Some of the problem we face, as I said, or we are facing, is the internet, the bandwidth. It's very expensive. Electricity, cut, as I said, that's why our faculty members start recording, every session they give via Skype, they record their class. And one of the problem is they record the whole class 1 hour. And then when it comes to storage, then you have to upload to the cloud. And of course, they have a lot of storage. Each faculty member at my institution have 5 terabytes of storage. So then I had to give another online training, telling them that, how to record small portion of your class, 10 minutes, maximum 10 minutes, and then, upload them as to your cloud storage. So we have so many problems at the infrastructure level. We have so many problems at the internet level, but thanks God, things are stabilizing at the institution level, and using those tools. Another thing I want to talk is about the government, what the Lebanese government is doing. Actually, the Ministry of Education and Higher Education, what they're doing now, what they're trying to do, because the minister yesterday is saying this is something new, we are trying. He used the word, we are trying to do things, and it's much better not to try. They have designed 3 tracks. The first track is deliver from the school to students, because a lot of students, they don't have electricity, maybe they don't have internet. Deliver paper books or paper homeworks, paper assignment, whatever you want to call it, from the school to the houses of the student. This is one method. The second method, they went back to the 60s, and now they are recording video lectures for high school students on TV, and they're putting on the national Lebanese TV. This is another thing they're doing, okay? And all the instructors who are recording those videos are volunteers. They are not getting any money paid, but you know, they said maybe we have about 2,000 instructors from high schools are doing those videotaping and putting them, broadcasting them on the national Lebanese TV. And the third track is they're trying to put some materials on the different platforms like Moodle and stuff like that. This is at the national level, actually, what's happening now. But of course, if you ask me, there are a lot of frustration from parents, from families, you know, same, I think same everywhere. We have families, they have 3-4 kids, you know, with the, you know, internet, iPads, there is only one computer home, all those issues, I believe that they are happening everywhere. So this is the story. What I can say is, at the end, as a conclusion, as a conclusion, I can say that it's not the time now to talk about online learning. My personal opinion. Let's not talk about online learning. Let's talk about, you know, remote learning, just, you know, to save the academic year for our students. Because if we want to talk about online learning, we've been talking about online learning, thousands of papers and research and between face-to-face and online and hybrid and blended and all those things. But in the future, I believe that a lot of work a lot of research need to be done, especially after this crisis. And I do believe that the online learning in the future, it's going to be something, it's going to be a must, you know, for universities, for high school, digitization of content, the concept of open education, OER, open assessment, all those terms, it's gonna be something very important in the future. I believe this is all, you know, and thank you for listening.
Well,
thank you.
Okay, I'm shut off my video for the problem I highlighted before. Well, can you hear me clearly?
Bye.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for your contribution. I see that you stressed some aspects that are common with the problem I highlighted by the other participant. Now we are going to the contribution of Karsten Lundqvist, Victoria University of Wellington, New Zealand. Well, since now in New Zealand are about 3 a.m. Karsten sent us a video that I asked to Andrea to put on. Okay.
Kia ora koutou, or good health to everyone. This is the Maori greeting, and I think it's a very pertinent greeting at the moment with all the things that are going on in the world. I am Dr. Karsten Lundqvist, and I am a senior lecturer at Victoria University of Wellington in New Zealand. And I'm preparing this video to just give a little bit of insight of what we're doing here in New Zealand and at my university. Currently, the situation is such that we have 647 ill people from the coronavirus. Today it was 58 people who got ill, so it is starting to grow quite fast. The good thing, if there's anything good in it, is that most of these are still people who have traveled to New Zealand from outside. We locked down about a week ago completely the country. Meaning that nobody can come in, and we sent out to everybody that people should come home now, which means that a lot of people brought back the illness. So at the moment, it's mostly those people who are ill. There's been a few people who have become ill from the community, but that's a minority. We are in total lockdown, meaning we cannot go out really. We can only go to the supermarket and the pharmacy, work unless it's essential work has been cancelled. So the university is not running at the moment. So this is my office at home. So the lockdown came in the mid of our third week in the trimester, and that was quite disruptive. Of course, we suddenly had to figure out what to do. So the university decided that we would need a 5-week teaching break, and after that go into online teaching. So the teaching break, of course, will include Easter. So it's not as long as it sounds. We will then have online teaching, and all exams have been cancelled. And what we will do then instead is continue teaching until what would be the end of the exam period. We'll have to change all the courses from 150 hours of study time to 120 hours of study time. We are not allowed to have more than 30% of the assessment in the last week, which is actually quite a change to our courses, and means that all of our courses that are running here in trimester 1 will need to change. And that's a huge enterprise for us. Now, our school was actually really well prepared for this change of lockdown. We had planned a lot of it before. We were ready to teach online. But the changes of the university, these changes, we had not assumed that they would give us a 5-week break. So now we are actually going through a total redesign of our courses. All of this needs to be approved. I'm one of the program directors. I'm program directing all the postgraduate courses in our school. So all of the courses that are taught needs to be approved for the assessment, which includes both faculty level approval and also advice from the union of the students. So actually a lot of issues in this. That's meant a huge enterprise and extra work for every academic in the school. We have had quite a lot of issues with the international students. First, we actually closed our borders that was end of January, which meant that suddenly our students from China, that was only borders to China, by the way, our students from China couldn't arrive. So we have been teaching them online. All our lectures have been videoed and shared, which of course is not the same as an online course, but that's the solution we've had for the Chinese students. We also have co-taught classes with undergraduate courses in China. In a similar situation has been there, that actually our teaching staff couldn't go to China suddenly. So there's been a lot of issues there. Now that the whole university is shut down, it's actually become a little bit easier, perversely, for the Chinese students. All in all, I think that because we have locked down completely this time, the hope is that we are, because we've seen what has gone wrong in Italy and Spain and now USA, we've been able to take the bull at the horns and trying to get it down very early on, and hopefully that will work out well for us, and therefore the disruptions up front, and we can get over it and have a more normalized trimester 2. That's our hope. If that is if that's going to be come true, that is to be seen. So yeah, that's the current situation here. I think I will end with a kia ora again. Good health to you all. I hope that that things will get better where you are. See you around.
Well, okay, we are going to the end to this session of this session. Sorry, I give the Professor Pier Giuseppe Rossi if you want to say something.
Only I ask if any of panelists want to add something very briefly. Can you add anything?
Yeah, I want to say, as you know, just one thing. Thank you very much for this interesting conference. And my advice is just let's keep things simple as you can. And this is very important, because giving so many tools for our faculty members, just throw them, so many tools to use at the same time, things will get complicated. My strategy, I use is, as I said, as a summary, the university is our virtual learning environment, and the online presence of the professor, I use this tool, which you can use WebEx, you can use Zoom, you can use whatever, but I use Skype for Business, and it's working fine for us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I will.
Okay, Lorea.
Okay, very briefly, I only could say, want to say that I think that if the institutions at this moment are transparent with the things that they are doing and how they are solving the problems, I think it's something that can help for the subsequent reflection and identification of good practices. And for me, it's very important that what we are learning with this situation, and I hope that maybe in another moment we could stay in another webinar, in another place, comparting these impressions. And thank you very much for this session, for invite, and good luck for everyone.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Enilda, okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, in addition to the comments already made, which I tend to agree with very much, just to add a little piece regarding care and wellness of faculty and care and wellness of students, in addition to all the technology and pedagogy and other things that are taking place right now in terms of remote teaching, but just care and wellness of faculty as well as our students who are also going through this with us. Thank you.
Thanks to you.
Thank you very much. Well, if is there any other intervention?
Yes, please. I mean, I like to close with positive feelings, but I think we should not forget that this big wave of ICT use, especially with young kids and with students, is bringing also a number of issues, of problematic issues, like data use, privacy, and especially just thinking, since a few of you were mentioning open educational resources, the fact that now many things are getting open and we have these policies, let's get open for 3 months, you can access that and that. When those things will be getting closed back, we will have some issues because people will have used it. So just a a note of cautiousness in the sense that, as Fasi was saying, we should keep it simple and also keep it safe before making, infinite promises, because we are under the emergency. When things will be going back to normal, we should hopefully have, be ready to make some improvement, as Laura was saying. And thank you also from my side. Very interesting.
Thank you. Jim, to you.
Yeah, I just want to add to the points previously shared by everyone, that I agree that we should keep everything simple and keep it safe, and remember that it's all about survival and learning rather than any other things at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I want to add something, please.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So just very quickly. So the first thing, just like my colleagues now said, is about safety. So here in China, when everything started, we had this something like hallucinating. So people from nothing, they start thinking they are like infected with coronavirus. So we had this like initiative about having like some psychologists, 24-hour psychologists to answer. It's like a hotline where you answer like the questions of the students to comfort them. So safety is very important, especially in this situation. So this is first. So maybe we need like to put like some psychologists, some socialists to talk with students. The second thing, and the most important thing, I think, is about parents. So now we are talking about emergency, and we keep talking about online learning, virtual learning, remote learning, but everything happens at home. And here comes the role of the parents in keeping their children motivated, in keeping their children like self-regulated, in keeping their children like engaged in the learning process. So we are not talking about the normal online learning mode, where like after one day you will meet the teacher and he will explain everything, or you will talk with him. So here we need like to emphasize the relationship between the university and parents, between the university and between the parents and the children. And I think this is very important. And thank you again for this invitation.
Thank you. Paolo.
One more thing.
Okay.
Pazzi.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want one more thing before we go. May God bless you all and your families. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Paolo, K-word.
Well, okay. Well, I try to work out some key topics that emerged from our discussion. Very quickly. The first topic is about the digital divide, even in a cultural dimension. The second aspect is about assessment. That is a key point for all of us. The third point is the teacher training for digital environment. That is another aspect that emerged from all of your intervention. Another aspect is accessibility of learning materials and open resources. That is another aspect relevant. Then the professor's overwork versus student pressure that emerged, that is another key point. And the last one, online teaching versus remote teaching, that are the two side of our reflection in most areas, in most countries. Well, these are the key topic that I think emerged as the more interesting and more common among all our different experiences. Given this, I give back to Pier Giuseppe.
Thank you, Paolo. I thank you for the participation, for your contribution. I hope to meet you in next day. I send you a mail to find a new possibility to interaction for collaboration in the future about this keyword Paolo said. I think is keyword, in particular the role of assessment, the role of teaching, the role of inclusion, the role of digital divided. And I hope is possible a new a new meeting, a new moment to discuss together or to do significant research together. Thank you to all.
Thank you to all. Bye bye, and excuse me for my digital
Bye-bye.
device problem.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you.
Stay
Bye.
safe.
Thank you to all.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Stay
Bye.
safe. Stay
Thank
safe.
you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye.